So we're here at the Business Analysis Conference Europe 2022, and I've managed to collar some time with Roger Burlton, who is president of Process Renewal Group, author of many articles and books as well, and also has just delivered a fantastic keynote looking at how business architecture might be relevant for business analysts. So Roger, thanks for taking some time to talk to us today.
Happy to be here.
So one question that people watching this might have in the back of their minds, particularly if they're business analysts, is what is business architecture? And I know it's a huge question, but I also know you can answer it. How would you describe it briefly?
Well, that's definitely a big challenge, there's no doubt about it. But I would say business architecture is the articulation of the structure of all the things we have to manage in the business. We have to manage information, we have to manage work, we have to manage the things we build and our investments, we have to manage priorities. A business architecture basically ties all those things together so that we can make the right decisions and make the right calls. But we have to have the structure to be able to do that. And we have to understand how the various pieces of that structure impinge on one another. Because if I change one, I might mess up the others. So it's understanding that before you start jumping in and solving problems, you know what problems to solve.
That's really interesting, Roger, and you paint a really interesting picture there, because I was thinking of it's that whole thing of knowing the thing you are going to change before you pull on a cord, and pulling on a cord and hoping for the best is not a good strategy. Mapping it through and seeing what the impact will be, and it kind of feels like there's a natural level of overlap between architecture and analysis, or there could be. What would you say that overlap looks like? I mean, should they be completely separate, or should we embrace and lean into that overlap?
I strongly believe that when we do analysis, we should be doing it and know where it fits in the overall scheme of things. So if I do decide I'm going to change how the work is done, I want to know what end-to-end process that's going to affect, because when I change it, I should improve the overall.
Yeah.
So if I make a change in something in customer service, it should actually end up in better customer service, strangely. So it's really understanding how the pieces are connected. So as you say, if I pull a string, I want to watch and see what other places in that ball of wool are actually going to move, so I know what pieces of the string I need to work on.
That's really, really
no
interesting.
Surprises is what I'm going for.
Yeah, and it's reminding me a lot of some of the sort of systems thinking that I'm quite into as well. And so if you were a business analyst, if you were wanting to know more about business architecture, and particularly if you were wanting to think about some techniques or concepts that you could read up on, what kind of ideas, techniques, concepts do you think BAs should be reading up on from the architecture world?
Well, I think there's a lot of things that business analysts have learned which apply to business architecture. Good interviewing techniques, good facilitation techniques, an understanding of why we do things in the first place. I think those are all good business analysis skills. But quite often what's missing is the structural framework that says, if I'm going to work on one thing, I need to know what other things need to come on the journey with me. Yeah. And so I really do believe that if you can do business analysis, the first thing you should be looking at is what's the contextual framework for what you're working on, and where does it fit into the overall question of creating value for the people who receive the goods and services that we produce.
So really zooming out.
It is, and it's outside in when we do that. So we always start with what's the impact on the customer? What's the impact on our owners? What's the impact with regard to staying compliant from a regulatory point of view? All of those are the major business drivers. So if I understand those, I can then say, well, the small piece of work I may be working on, which I can tell you whether or not it's going to help our overall goals. So it's a connect. I think it really is, the business architecture really connects the strategic intentions with the actual execution and the management of change and the things we build out, and the business analysts are quite comfortable articulating.
Well, one thing from your presentation, or one of the many things, Roger, which really resonated with me, was you made a distinction between interpreters and translators. Right. And I made the mistake once of accidentally calling an interpreter a translator, and they corrected me and said, no, I'm an interpreter, right? And for anyone watching who doesn't know the difference, generally, like an interpreter is the kind of person you're speaking at a conference. They are interpreting in live,
in real time,
and delegates are getting it in their earpieces in a different language. And it's like, it's so intense. They often they work in pairs and they switch after
every
half
10
an
minutes
hour or whatever.
so.
Whereas a translator is still a skilled job, but it's not in real time, and you've got a document, you can ask queries and so on. And I love the way you said that a lot of it's about interpretation of the strategic intent, because an exec is going to tell you the strategic intent, but they're not going to tell you, it's not going to be at that level, it's going to be at this level.
Right, exactly. And so based upon that, the architect as interpreter has got to figure out where am I going to put the bedrooms, what do I really need in the kitchen, and if I do it right, will the heating system work, as opposed to the homeowner is going to want a house with 3 bedrooms that really works with their kids as they're growing up. The hot water is going to be reliable. Somebody's got to turn that into a set of plans. And I think that's what the architect's job is, to turn that into a set of plans, with the help then of the business analyst, who may be the same person, just a different role, but with the help of the business analyst to articulate the details of what all that means.
So Roger, if you were to have like one or a couple of takeaways, like in 30 seconds or less, which is a really unfair thing to ask, but like the key takeaway from your session, what do you really hope people have taken from it?
I think the main takeaways is you should always be connected to the strategic intentions of the organization, so that when you do interpret, you can always be questioning yourself and say, will this make the difference that people were hoping for? That's one. That also implies that you're coming outside in. Always external stakeholder driven, because that will allow you to choose among designs. It will allow you to make the best choices without having to just ask people their opinions of what they would like. And so stay true to the intentions, and basically make sure that you can show the business case almost as to how you can get the best benefit among 3 different design alternatives. Which one you're going to pick?
Fantastic. You mentioned one of your books in your presentation. Remind us, what was the name of that book?
Oh, the book is called Business Architecture, with the subtitle of Collecting, Connecting, and Correcting the Dots, which I think is our journey from strategy and all the various components to how they work together, to how do I actually fix the things which need to be fixed, the right things that need to be fixed.
Fantastic. And Roger, I'm sure people watching will want to connect with you. They'll want to find out more, perhaps buy the book. How can people connect with you, and how can people get their hands on the book?
Well, they can get their hands on the book you can certainly buy it through Amazon, but there's other places you can get it as well. But the best way to connect with me, the simplest way for everybody, is on LinkedIn. I'm the only Roger Burlton on LinkedIn.
In the world.
Well, maybe I am. I don't know.
I've never met another one, so.
No, neither have I.
Fantastic. Roger, thank you so much for taking time to have a chat today.
All right, thank you so much.
Fantastic. Well, again, another really interesting, really good, interesting interview there. So if you're enjoying these interviews, please do continue to follow us on social media. We'll bring you as many as we can during the conference. And see you again soon.